This conference will now be recorded.
Okay. So yesterday we were discussing about the clouds, right? Cloud technologies. So we will be staging the data in S3 and then we will be bringing the data to Snowflake, right? So how this S3 looks like, how you'll upload the files, right? So those things you need to understand. So in order to understand these basics, first you need to understand how to create a cloud account, and then what are the things involved there, what are the different services involved there. Okay, so maybe most of you people are, if you're working on AWS, you people are aware of these things, very basic things, but still I want to show you some, the basics today. Okay, so like Snowflake is providing a free trial account, AWS is also providing a free trial account here. So in order to create that particular account, just you need to type AWS free tier, and this free tier they are providing for 1 year actually. Okay, so yeah, right. So see here, you have a create a free account button here. So actually they have some, even it is a free account, there are some limitations. Let's say I am telling S3, right? So that S3 you can use 5 GB standard storage per month. Okay, so per month you cannot exceed this particular amount. Okay, so for every service there is some limitation here in the free tier here. Okay, so it is 12-month free. Just you can click on this create free account. So just what you need to have a Gmail ID. Okay, a Gmail ID, and they'll also ask some credit card information. Okay, so it went to, let me open this. Let me open in incognito window because I have already created one account. It is directly going to the payment information. So just get the correct link in Google actually. AWS free tab. Right. Just click on this. Same thing. Create a free account. Okay, so here it will ask for your email address, and then it will ask for some account name here. Okay, actually you need to use a unique unique email account here. Okay, so if you have used something already, so one email ID, so duplicate email IDs will not work. Whereas in Snowflake you can use the same email ID again and again. Okay, so you cannot use a duplicate email ID here. So I have actually created multiple accounts. So just uh, I'll enter the email ID and the account name here. Okay, okay, let me give the capture here. So, so you need to send an email, you need to get this verification code. Okay, I have that. Open the Gmail. It is saying AWS account already exists. Okay, actually you need to give a different email ID here. So can anyone ping the your Gmail ID who has not created any account here? Just I'll show you the steps. I won't go to the payment details. Just I'll show you the steps and then I'll leave, because I have already created one account with this email ID. Can anyone ping me your email ID? Just I'll show the step. Your Gmail ID. Okay, so let's take full deep email ID. Let's try this one. Right. So let us go back. Create free tier account. So you need to give a different email ID, and this is, you can give any name here. This is your account name. Okay. Verify an email address. So you'll get a code. Can you tell me that? Can you send me the verification code once?
Yep, just a second. Yeah, it's 833565.
Yeah, 833565.
Yes.
Okay, just I'm verifying it. Yeah. So now you got your, this is verified. Okay. So just I'm putting a password here for you. I'll ping you this password later. So this is the password for your AWS account generally. So this is a step 1. Okay. In the step 2, it will ask for the contact information here. So you can enter the contact information here. Okay. And after that, what you need to give is you need to give a credit card information. Okay. So you don't need to. It won't charge. If there is some limit exceeding. So let's say you are using more than 5 GB of data per month in S3, so they will be charging. So you should be careful while using this account. If you are exceeding the limits within that month, maybe you'll get a bill, but it will not deduct the amount by default. You need to pay the bill explicitly. Okay. So for that reason, it will ask for some credit card information. Okay. So all of the details you can fill it here, and in the next step, it will ask for credit card information, and then your account will be created. Okay. But the credit card or debit card should be active. Initially, they will deduct 1 rupee or 2 rupees from you to check whether that card is working or not. Okay. So I have already created an account. Okay, so I'm not going to fill all these details now. Just I'll log in into my account here. Okay. If you face any difficulties in creating the account, let me know. Even I have a video on that. Okay, I'll show you that because I have already 2 accounts active. So just I'll log in into that account. Okay. Now, so my root user ID I'm giving here. So once your account is created, you can use your Gmail ID as the root user ID. Okay. Now click on next and give the password here. Right. So this is the console, guys. This is the AWS console. Once after creating your account, once you log in it, so this is the console that you are going to see here. So everything is called as a service here. Whatever the service you want, whatever the function you want to use, that will be a service here. Okay. Here you have different services like for databases. For a data engineer, you may need to know about S3 because you want to store the data from different sources in S3. RDS is another service called relational database service, where if you want to spin up an Oracle database, or if you want to spin up a Postgres database in the cloud, you can do that. So this is for OLTP databases. Okay. And EC2 is a virtual machine. Like if you want to spin up a Linux machine, so you can use this EC2 service, right? So IAM is a administration service. Like if you want to create new users for your account, so you will be using this service. So everything is a what we say, it's a web service here. Okay. And this data migration service is there, right? So this service can connect to different sources like Oracle, Postgres, and different databases, and put the data into S3. So this is one of the data loader tool you can think of, like Golden Gate and all. So there are a lot of data related services that you need to know. Okay. So we will go step by step. Okay. So we will, whenever the need is there, I will explain that particular service and we'll use that service. Okay. So the simple notification service is to send an email to your Gmail if some event has happened, or you can send a message to your mobile also using this simple notification service. Okay. So we are going to discuss all these services in our sessions, ongoing sessions. Okay. So first let us talk about S3 here, because your data will be coming from different sources and you will be putting the data in S3. Okay, so let's go to S3 now. So I'm clicking on the services and S3. You can search the service here. So scalable storage service, S3 is scalable storage service here. Okay, now here the data will be stored in the form of files. Okay, so first the high level folder is called bucket here. So these two things are called buckets here. So if you want to create a new bucket, so you can click on this button, just create bucket, use some bucket name. So that bucket name should be unique. It should not be repeated across the accounts. Okay, so now I'm creating a bucket here. My SF training. Okay, so this is my bucket name. And what is this AWS region? So it is the data center of that particular AWS where your data is residing. So Asia Pacific Mumbai is the nearest region for me. So by default, it is automatically selected here. Okay, you can choose any other region. There is no restrictions. You can choose US regions from India also. Okay, so then I'm keeping everything as default. Just I'm clicking on create bucket. Okay, so this bucket is created now, right? So it is created in Asia Pacific Mumbai region. Now just open this bucket. You can upload the files here directly, or you can create some folders here. So let's say I want to create a folder and I'll call it as my folder name as raw data. So I'm getting raw data, right? So I'm creating a folder called raw data. Inside this raw data folder, let us assume I'm getting the data from different tables, right? So I want to create a folder for a table, actually one-to-one mapping. Let's say for employee table, I want to create a subfolder called employee, right? Maybe for department table, I'll create a table called DEPT, right? So logically, I'll separate the data with these folders here. Okay, so by opening this employee, now let's say I want to upload a file here. This is my last folder. Just I want to upload a file here. So you can use this particular button and you can upload any kind of file here. Okay, so I'll show you one sample file here. So take this particular employee details. So this is employee ID, employee name, location. So let us remove this. Okay, employee ID, employee name, location. So this is my employee file. Let us assume. Now I want to upload this file into S3, right? So you can use this button, upload, add files. So you can browse and you can upload it. Right, let us take this file and click on upload. So this file is uploaded here. Okay, but in real time, we don't upload the files manually, right? So when you, in the real time, when it comes to Snowflake, we don't upload these files manually. Okay, so what we do is we use some data loader tools. Okay, so I told you we can get the data from different sources, right, yesterday. So from different sources, let's say from Postgres database, I want to load the data into S3. So this is your Snowflake, right? So you don't upload the data manually to S3. We use some tools in between and we bring the data here. So the tools are called your data loader tools. Okay, so there are multiple tools in the market. Okay, so you can use an ETL tool like Matillion, or you can use AWS service. Just now I have shown you DMS, data migration service, or there are some other tools like Golden Gate, Attenuity, and a lot of the list goes on. Quilic is one of the tool currently people are using. Okay, so a lot of tools are there which will bring the data and put it in S3. They write it into S3 in the file format. So even the data is there in the table format in your Postgres, it will read the data from the transaction logs and it will write it into a file in S3 here. So generally, I'm going to show you the DMS task also, how we'll create and how it brings the data from an Oracle database to S3 here. Okay, so there are data loader tools that you bring it here. Again, you can use Python also here. So Python has a lot of connectors. So if you don't want to use any licensed tools here, I can also use my Python programming to bring the data from a source database to S3. Okay, so that this part I will show it later. But for now, I am uploading my file manually. Okay, right? So here the points to remember is the high level folder is called bucket here. So this is my bucket, and inside bucket you can create any number of subfolders, and you can upload the files here. So it can store any kind of files like your text files, Parquet files, JSON files, XML files. Okay, so you can store any kind of format of the files here. Okay, so this is a very basic thing about S3, but there are some properties, we'll discuss that later. Like you can define a life cycle policy by saying like after 5 days I want to like delete the file from S3 after 5 days. So you can do that. Okay, we will be getting some event notification. Let's say a file is arrived in S3, I want to notify someone that if one file is arrived. Okay, so that kind of notifications also we'll set on S3 buckets here. Okay, so clear guys on S3 part, or you have any questions?
Do we also
Vinod,
use EBS,
Sorry.
the EBS storage type?
Oh,
Elastic.
Elastic Black Storage you're asking. So there is a, yeah, that is a separate service actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is like object, we call it as object storage. In Azure, you call it as blob. In Google Cloud it is called GCS, Google Cloud Storage. So the equivalent of other clouds here. Right? Any other questions, guys?
so this bucketing, right? So we only have to create, right? So, and do you have any
Right.
other
Right.
admins to create?
Buckets creation that I was talking about, right? Let's say while creating, let's say I'm taking DMS, we'll create a task in DMS and say, okay, bring the data from employee and write it in the employee subfolder in this particular bucket. Okay, so if the bucket is existing, it will write it there. If the bucket is not existing, it will create the bucket and write it there. So you have that option in these tools.
Okay, but in the production, it should be like a common bucket, right? Where we ingest the data. So,
so yes, so generally what we do is we'll create one single bucket from different sources, and here I will organize the data in subfolders. Let's say for each table I may create one folder, or let's say you're getting the data from different sources. So for each source you create a subfolder, and inside that subfolder and create one more subfolder for each table here. Okay, so that you can logically separate the data. You should not mix all the tables data in one simple folder, so that while loading the data it has to set which file to load, right? And even you give the pattern, like let's say you're storing all the files in a single folder like emp underscore dept underscore, but while loading the data you need to search for that pattern which will make your load performance, which will affect your load performance, right? So in that case, just simply logically separate them through a folder so that you can specify this path, so all the files will be loaded.
okay.
Right. So this is very basic about S3, guys. The other service that we need to know is one of the administration service. So this is generally used by most of the administrators, but this service is useful for establishing link between your S3 and Snowflake, right? So in order to establish a link between S3 and Snowflake, let's say you want to read the data from S3 or write the data into S3, you need to have read and write access on this S3 from Snowflake, right? How you will establish that connection? Okay, so that connection, if you want to understand that connection before, you need to know one administration service in AWS called IAM, Identity Access Management. Okay, so I'll show you that service, IAM. So this is an administration service. Okay, so it manage access to AWS resources. So it is like your account admin role in Snowflake, like your admin is managing all the object access, right? Same way in AWS we have a service called IAM, Identity Access Management. So now just I click on this IAM. What you can do with this IAM? Okay, so let's say now I am the administrator of AWS. You joined in my team, and I need to create a user for you, right? So how I can do that? So that can be done through your IAM. Okay, so go to IAM and click on users here. Just click on add users. So you can give any username here except just okay, and see here, to log in into your account you need a password, right? So if you check this, you can set that password here. Either you can generate auto generate password, or you can give some custom password. Okay, and you can say after first login, if you want to change the password, if you want to put that condition, you can check this checkbox, otherwise you can remove this. Okay, so this is your login to your Snowflake AWS user interface using the password here. Okay, so you check this box for the user interface, but there is another checkbox here, access key, right? Programmatic access. So they are saying it enables an access key ID and secret access key for the AWS API, CLI, SDK, and other development tools. So we'll discuss this later. Actually, this is where you will get, you establish the connection between your Snowflake and S3 here. Okay. So before that, just I'll show you how to create a normal user with a password here. Okay. So I'm giving user, I'm checking this box, and just I'm clicking on next. So next is the permission section here. Okay. So actually here the permission is called policy. So yesterday we discussed about select access on table, insert access on table in Snowflake, right? Same way, read access on S3, write access on S3, full access on S3, or read access to, or access to an EC2 instance, access to an RDS service. So everything is called a policy here. So if you see here, if I'm clicking on this button, you'll see a lot of policies here. So many services policy. So if I want to give this user an S3 access, so I'll search with S3. So you have S3 full access, you have S3 read-only access, you have S3 write access. So multiple things are there here. Okay. But now for this particular user, I'm not giving anything. Just I'm going to next. I'm not giving any permissions. Okay. So just I'm next, and then I'm giving create user. Okay. A new user will be created with username SF test. Okay. So you can download the password information as a CSV file if you want to use it later. Okay. Now I will log in with this particular user. Okay. So let's log in to the AWS console with that particular user. Okay. AWS. Right, because I'm in incognito window, I cannot open two things in one browser. Okay. So I'm signing into the console. Now while signing into the console, you need to choose a different option. Okay, it is automatically logging in. Let me sign out. Right. So now I want to log in with a user. It's not root user, it is an IAM user. Okay. So the user ID that I am going to use is created by Identity Access Management. Okay. So root user means the Gmail ID that you have used, right? So I am not the root user. Who is the account owner? Now I want to log in with IAM user. Okay. Just click on this checkbox. Now it is asking for your account ID or account alias. So what is this account alias? While creating the account ID, I gave one name like SF training under, right? So that can be used, or there is a 12-digit number. So that you'll get it from your root account actually. So I logged in with my Gmail ID, right? So here either the alias SF_Matillion training can be given, or you can give this particular account ID. So each and every AWS account has a unique account ID here. Go here, paste that value here, right? IAM user. Back to, yeah. Click on next. Actually, it is IAM user. Yeah. Now you need to give the username, right? So I'm giving my username as SF test. This is what I have created, and I am giving the password here. Now this guy a new user can log in into this particular AWS account. Okay. So let's say you are a developer joined in my team. Maybe you need some basic AWS access to work with Snowflake. Okay. So I will create a user and give this permission to you. Okay. Now let us go to S3. Okay. I'll type S3 here. So it is saying no buckets. It is saying no buckets, and that create bucket is disabled here. So what is the reason for this? Because this user is not able to see the buckets created by this root user. What is the reason for that? So root user with my Gmail ID, when I have logged in, I'm seeing 3 buckets here. Okay. And here, this particular guy is not able to see any buckets here. What could be the reason?
We did not provide any policies.
Exactly. So a user should be attached with some policies or permissions so that he can see that particular service here. Okay. So now from the root account, so it is like from account admin, we are giving usage access and database, usage access and warehouse. So similar to that, from this particular root account, I am going to IAM again. I'll modify that user. Okay. I'll modify this particular user. Right, this guy, right? So click on this. Now here you have permissions. So just click on add permissions and go to attach existing policies. Now I'll give you S3 full access only. Okay. So this is one policy. Okay. So if you expand this policy, generally it will be in JSON format actually. Yeah, you can see the policy in JSON format. Okay. Just click on next, add permissions. So now this particular user having Amazon S3 full access. Now let us go back to this particular user ID and refresh. You should be able to see those buckets. Again, see, now this guy is able to see the buckets here. Okay, so because that user is having your S3 access, so he is able to see those buckets here. So IAM is the administration service where you can control the access for different users here. Okay, clear guys? Are any other questions here? Okay, now what is that account number? Yeah, so each AWS account, when you create, it will have a unique ID. Okay, so when you are logging in with your IAM user, it asks for that to which account you want to log in. Okay, so generally your Gmail ID is associated with your account. Unique Gmail ID will be associated with your account here, right? But for an IAM user, then you should say like to this account you log in. So which account? How you specify that? Through this number. So it is only used when you use an IAM user. Okay. Now let's come back to this connection part. Okay, how Snowflake and S3 will communicate with each other. Okay, so for that actually I'll create another user. So there are two ways that Snowflake and S3 talks with each other. So I'll show you the diagram. So in this part there are two methods. Okay, so one is using user credentials. Okay, I'll call it as user credentials. And the other method is using storage integration. So now you understood what is S3, the basic thing, just basic thing, and also you understood what is IAM, right? So now I want to establish the connection between S3 and Snowflake, right? So there are two methods. So first let us discuss about a method called user credentials. Okay, so how this communication will happen between your S3 and Snowflake. So I'll show you one command first in Snowflake, how to copy the data from S3 to Snowflake, just single command. Okay, so the command looks like this, guys. Okay, copy into employee. So let's say employee is my table. I have created employee table with employee ID, employee name, location, and I want to copy the data from this employee table to this employee table from S3 location. So the syntax looks like this: copy into table from the S3 location. Let's say this is my file name in S3 I have uploaded. So S3 colon, the bucket name and all the subfolders name here. And here I am giving a parameter called credentials. Okay, so from where you get these credentials? So from AWS you will get these credentials. Okay, so I'm talking about this user credentials. So what does this credential indicate is you have read access from S3 or write access to S3. Okay, so Snowflake has to prove that I have read access to S3 or write access to S3, right? So how you'll get these credentials? Okay, so to get these credentials, again you have to go back to IAM. Okay, so I'll go back to IAM service. Right, I am already in IAM. So while creating the user, I told you there is another checkbox called programmatic access, right? So I'll create, I'll do that. I'll check that checkbox here. So I'll create another user. called SF data load, right? So I haven't received any of the recordings from previous training session. Yeah, so I'll be doing that from Monday, guys. The recording part and all the things I'll do it from Monday, because I'm waiting for confirmation from all the candidates to proceed with the sessions. So once I get the final list, please share your Gmail IDs if you are confirmed. Then I'll give the recording access. Okay. Right. So now, just I'm creating a user. Previously, I was checking this password to log in into your console. Okay. So now I don't want to log in into console. Just I need this access key IDs. Okay. So just I'm checking this checkbox and go to next. Okay. And here I am again attaching a policy called S3 full access. Okay. Now just I'll create this user. So as soon as I create this user, I'll receive two credentials. One is access key ID. Okay, access key ID and secret access key. Right. So these are the two things that you need to put it in the Snowflake copy into command. Okay. So access key ID and secret access key. So if you put these things here, now you are proving to AWS that you have access to S3. So through a user, right? Through a user which I have created SF data load, I am saying, okay, use this particular SF data load user credentials and copy the data to my table. So I'm proving I have read access through this user. Indirectly, I'm using your AWS user credentials and accessing your S3 here. Okay. So now let us copy a sample file into Snowflake so you'll understand. So this is the account we are using actually. Let me log in into this particular Snowflake account. So I have some files already uploaded here. So let us copy a particular file. So how the file looks like, I'll show you. So this is one file, or let's say I'll create a new file. Okay, same file. Okay, so employee ID, my employee name, location, employee ID, employee name, location. Okay, so this is my file. So let us rename this file. EMP data. Okay, so this file I will upload here in this particular place on the desktop. EMP underscore data. Okay, so .txt is fine. You don't need to give .csv. CSV is comma separated value files. Okay, so now I want to load this particular EMP data into my employee table. Okay, so let us do that. Right. So first I will create the employee table in my database test and landing. Maybe I will create an employee table. Okay, there is an employee table already existing. Let us create employee. Okay, so employee ID, employee name, location, and from that particular files I will load the data. From that particular file that is uploaded to S3, I load the data here. So my table is empty now. Employee table is empty. Now I am saying copy the data into my employee table from this particular location. Here the file name is employee data, right? Employee. What is the file name? EMP underscore data. Let's say I want to copy a single file. Okay, so just I'm giving that file name. Okay, type equal to CSV. I'm saying that means my file is stored in the CSV format. So I'm giving access key ID and secret access key so that I'm proving to AWS that I have access to your S3 bucket. Okay, so now see how the data will be copied from S3 to Snowflake. See, that particular file is loaded. There are total 4 records. 4 records are loaded here. So now you can query this. right? See, the file data that I have shown there is loaded into my employee table. Okay, so this is the way that you use copy into command with credentials to load the data into your Snowflake table from S3. So this is the first approach I was talking about, the credentials approach. Okay, clear guys? Are any questions on this part? No questions?
Why is it copy, the keyword copy into? Because you're loading data from the S3 like into the Snowflake, right?
Right. Right. Copying means, yeah, you're ingesting the data here, right? So this is the syntax they are providing. It's not like
Okay.
insert. So insert into employee means you're giving a manual insert here, like not from a file. You'll say insert into employee values and you'll give this, right? So you'll give the employee ID, employee name here, 100, right? So insert into
Okay.
is this command,
Yeah.
right? So copy into is from a file. What formats will be supported for copy command? Yeah, so we are going to discuss that. Actually, structured like CSV, JSON, XML, Parquet, right? So all these formats are supported. Semi-structured and structured, all the formats are supported here. So we are going to discuss that. So a lot of things needs to be discussed on the data loading part. So for the entire 1 week, next week, we will be spending our time on data ingestion part. So what are the methods are available? Which is the best practice? When to go for that approach? And what are the regular errors that you will get while loading the data? How to fix them? So what are the syntax of copy into command? So a lot of options are there in the copy into command. Okay. So
Right.
next
In the
week,
S3, you said it's JSON, right? The data format.
yes, we can do it. You can upload a data in JSON and you can say type equal to JSON and you can load the data into the table. So it
Okay.
accepts JSON also, XML also. So what is this?
Okay.
What is the question? Oh, okay. Regarding the recordings, okay. So do one thing. People who wanted to continue the sessions, okay, just share your email address here. I'll share the recordings this weekend. Because like I'm waiting for confirmation for all the candidates. So that's the reason I did not share any recordings. Okay. Yeah, your email ID I have actually. Yeah, I have. I'll share that. I'll share that recording. So any other questions, please? So for the next 1 week, 1 week or 1.5 weeks, guys, we are going to discuss the data ingestion part. Okay. So now you know the basics only, right? What is S3, how to load the data here. But there are so many things to discuss in the data loading. We will get lot of errors while loading the file. So how to fix them. So all those things we'll discuss from Monday, guys. So tomorrow and day after tomorrow there is no session.
Somebody in the chat, they ask how to load large data size file.
Yes. So generally, you have the option to split the files into multiple subfiles. Snowflake recommends the file size, the optimal file size from 100 MB to 250 MB. Okay, if it is more than that, also you can load it, but the parallel processing will not happen. So if you want to make it faster, you need to split it into multiple subfiles, which are size 100 MB to 250 MB, and load them.
So so like, do we have a so bulk load and incremental load concept here as well?
Yes. So bulk load is nothing but we are copying to command. To copy the historical data, we are going to use copy to command. For incremental load, we have a concept called snowpipe.
Okay. In generally, so we use Snowflake only, right, in the real time?
In the most of the time, yeah, we use the snowpipe. Yeah, that's what we are going to discuss in the next week. So these are all new terms for maybe others.
Yeah.
We're going to discuss the bulk loading, incremental loading, the data load errors, copy into options, how to export the data to history. Not only importing, how to export the data to S3, how to write the data to S3. So everything we'll see.
And do we have a connection to any reporting tools from Snowflake like Power BI and Tableau? So that is
Yes.
also, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
So,
it is possible. People are using the Power BI and Tableau tools with Snowflake to visualize their data. Generally, a data warehouse will have that connection. So SCD types, yeah, we are going to discuss that in the stream session. Okay. So in the stream session, I am going to discuss the SCD types as well. Okay.
What happens if the table does not exist, like employee?
It will fail. See, I am giving copy into employee one. So it will clearly throw that error. So I told you in the Snowflake architecture, one of the responsibility of cloud services layer is to resolve the objects. Whether this particular, sorry, it is giving a different error because of semicolon. So it to resolve the object. So it will say that you have employee one does not exist. You will clearly say.
Right. Okay, I see.
And guys, any other questions you have?
Yeah, so Binod, in real time, we like normally did not use the key and the secret key, right? So
Exactly. So there is a problem with it. So that's why. I'll teach that in the next class. There is a problem with this AWS key ID and secret key. So there are some hacker programs which will be continuously scanning for these keys. If you have uploaded this code somewhere in the GitHub public repository, so there might be those programs will extract these values and they will use this your AWS account for their use. Okay. So that's the reason there is a second method. So in the diagram I showed you, like there is a second method called storage integration. So this is the best practice generally we use in the real time.
One more thing. I mean, when you created the ID, we got those key IDs, right?
Right.
So once you have created it and somebody lost track of it or something and they want it back, where can we find them?
You cannot find them. Actually, there is an option to download it into an Excel file when you have created that. Okay. So I did not do that. So, but generally you can download it into Excel file.
Okay.
Or you can save it somewhere in a file.
Because I mean, if you are the admin and somebody types it wrong,
right,
it would be hard for you to find out
right,
which
so,
character they have typed it wrong, right?
Correct. So in that case, we have that option. Like you need to save that into a file. You cannot go back and see it once you have created.
Okay. There is no way of going back and re-verifying it.
Yes.
Yeah, that's why it's not recommended.
Okay. Yeah. So I'll stop it here today, guys, and then we'll see. Can we directly load OLTP data into Snowflake? Yeah, actually, without cloud, yeah, there is an option called internal stages. We are going to discuss that. Without cloud storage, Snowflake is also providing some space like S3. That is called internal stages. So we are going to discuss that in the data loading part. Okay, guys. So let's meet on Monday. So just share your email IDs who are willing to continue the sessions so that I share the recordings as well. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, guys.
yep, thanks, Vinod.